Hey everyone, ready for a deep dive into something truly fascinating. We're going to be tackling a question that has puzzled people for centuries. Who were the Nephilim? You might have heard whispers about them in religious texts, shrouded in mystery and a little bit of awe. But what are the actual facts we can glean from the source material?
That's what we're here to uncover. It's interesting, isn't it, how certain figures from ancient texts still kind of capture our imaginations even today? There's something about the unknown, the mysterious, that just keeps us asking questions.
Absolutely. And to be clear, this deep dive isn't about promoting any particular belief system, okay? It's more like we're historical detectives,
Yeah.
sifting through clues to piece together a clearer picture.
A very fitting analogy. Our primary source material is going to be the Bible, specifically the books of Genesis and Numbers. That's where the term Nephilim first appears. These texts provide some, tantalizing glimpses into who the Nephilim might have been, but they also leave a lot of room for interpretation.
Okay, so let's start with the basics. What does the Bible actually say about the Nephilim?
Well, Genesis 6.4 is where we first encounter them, and it describes them as the offspring of sons of God and daughters of man. Now, right off the bat, we run into some ambiguity. Who exactly are these sons of God? It's a question that has sparked debate for centuries.
It's like a puzzle with missing pieces.
Mm.
I've heard different theories about these sons of God. Some say fallen angels, others say powerful human rulers. Where do those interpretations come from?
You've hit the nail on the head. The text itself doesn't explicitly define who these sons of God are, so that leaves it open to a range of interpretations. Some scholars, drawing on later Jewish and Christian traditions, interpret them as fallen angels who mated with human women, creating a race of powerful, often disruptive beings, the Nephilim.
That sounds almost like something out of Greek mythology with gods and mortals, intermingling.
The parallels are definitely intriguing, and this fallen angel interpretation has had a significant impact on how the Nephilim are portrayed in art and literature. Often they're depicted as larger-than-life figures with a touch of the demonic.
So that's one interpretation. But you mentioned other scholars see it differently.
Absolutely. Another prominent interpretation argues that these sons of God were simply powerful human rulers or descendants of a particular lineage. Perhaps Seth, the third son of Adam and Eve. In this view, the Nephilim would be the result of intermarriage between different groups, possibly leading to conflicts or power struggles that were later mythologized.
So instead of supernatural beings, we're talking about powerful families or tribes vying for dominance. It's fascinating how the same text can yield such different readings. Does the Bible offer any more clues to help us unravel this mystery?
It does. If we move beyond Genesis, we find another mention of the Nephilim in the book of Numbers. Here, the Israelite spies sent into Canaan report, seeing Nephilim, describing them as descendants of Anak and comparing themselves to grasshoppers in their presence.
Grasshoppers. Wow, that paints a pretty vivid picture of how intimidating the Nephilim must have seemed. It suggests they were physically imposing, regardless of their actual origin.
Exactly. This passage reinforces the idea that the Nephilim, regardless of their parentage, were perceived as formidable beings, inspiring both awe and fear. This perception, as you can imagine, would have had a significant impact on how people viewed them and their role in the world.
It makes you wonder how these stories shaped the beliefs and actions of those who lived in those times. If these tales of powerful, potentially disruptive beings were circulating, did they influence how people understood their own place in the world?
That's a question worth pondering. We can only speculate, of course, but it's clear that stories of the Nephilim, even with their brief mentions in the Bible, tapped into deep-seated human anxieties about the unknown, the potential for chaos, and the forces that might disrupt the established order.
So we've got these intriguing, albeit limited references to the Nephilim in the Bible. They're presented as powerful, even frightening figures, but their origin remains shrouded in mystery, sparking multiple interpretations. Where do we go from here? Is there more to uncover beyond these canonical texts?
There is, and here's where things get even more fascinating. Outside of the traditional Bible, we find additional mentions of the Nephilim in Jewish apocryphal and pseudepigraphical writings, texts like the Book of Enoch. These writings, while not considered part of the official canon by most Jewish and Christian denominations, offer further insights into how the Nephilim were perceived and understood in the centuries leading up to the Common Era.
Hold on, apocryphal and pseudepigraphical. Those are some big words. Could you break those down for me and our listener before we dive into the Book of Enoch? What do those terms even mean, and why are these texts considered separate from the Bible?
You're right, those terms can sound a bit intimidating. Apocryphal texts are works that were considered sacred by some groups, but ultimately didn't make it into the official biblical canon. The collection of books recognized as authoritative scripture. Pseudepigraphical texts are writings attributed to biblical figures, but likely written much later. These texts, though not included in the official canon, provide valuable glimpses into the diversity of beliefs and interpretations that existed in ancient times.
So even though these texts aren't part of the traditional Bible, they still offer valuable insights into the world in which the Nephilim stories emerged. It's like having access to bonus features or deleted scenes that offer a wider perspective.
Precisely. They're like pieces of a larger puzzle, helping us see the bigger picture of how the Nephilim were understood and how their story evolved over time. And the Book of Enoch, in particular, offers a much more detailed and dramatic account of the Nephilim than we find in the Bible.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Let's delve into this Book of Enoch and see what it reveals about the Nephilim. What kind of details does it add to the story?
Well, imagine getting a behind-the-scenes look at the sons of God and their interactions with humanity. The Book of Enoch goes all in on the fallen angel interpretation, even naming these angels like Semjaza and Azazel.
Well, hold on. It actually names these fallen angels. That's a level of detail we don't get in the Bible. What else does it reveal about them?
This is where it gets really interesting. The Book of Enoch portrays these fallen angels as teaching humanity forbidden knowledge. Things like metallurgy warfare, and even cosmetics, ultimately corrupting them and leading to widespread wickedness.
It's almost like a cautionary tale about the dangers of knowledge and the potential for even seemingly good things to be misused. What about the Nephilim themselves? How does the Book of Enoch describe them?
The Book of Enoch paints a vivid picture of the Nephilim as giants who wreak havoc on Earth, devouring resources, engaging in violence, and essentially embodying the consequences of this forbidden knowledge.
So it takes the hints we see in Genesis and expands on them, creating a much more elaborate and dramatic narrative.
Yeah.
It sounds like a fascinating text in its own right.
It truly is, and its influence is undeniable. The Book of Enoch's vivid descriptions of the Nephilim and their role in a world gone astray clearly impacted later Jewish and Christian thought, shaping how these figures were perceived and interpreted for centuries to come.
You know, it's amazing how these ancient texts can be so interconnected with one story, building upon another, adding new layers of meaning and complexity. But before we get too lost in the Book of Enoch, I think it's a good place to pause for now.
Agreed. We've covered a lot of ground exploring the biblical origins of the Nephilim, the various interpretations of their parentage, and the intriguing details added by extra-biblical texts like the Book of Enoch.
Exactly. We've laid a solid foundation, and I'm eager to see where this deep dive takes us next. We'll be back soon to continue unraveling the mystery of the Nephilim.
Welcome back. It's remarkable how the Nephilim, despite their relatively brief mentions in the Bible, have sparked such enduring fascination and debate.
I know, right? You'd think a few cryptic verses wouldn't have such staying power, but the Nephilim seem to tap into something deep within the human psyche. It's like their story with its blend of mystery and the supernatural has left a void that people have been trying to fill for centuries.
That's a very keen observation. The Nephilim often act as a blank canvas onto which different cultures and time periods project their own anxieties and interpretations. Their ambiguous nature allows them to be shaped and molded to fit various narratives and worldviews.
So they're not just figures in a story, they're almost like a mirror, reflecting the fears and fascinations of those who tell their tale.
Yeah.
What are some of the ways that the Nephilim have been interpreted or reimagined over time?
Well, one recurring theme is this idea that the Nephilim represent a disruption of the natural order, a transgression of boundaries that shouldn't be crossed. This ties in with their portrayal as offspring of divine beings and humans, a mixing of realms that some interpretations view as inherently problematic.
I can see how that would be unsettling to people in ancient times, especially in cultures with strict social hierarchies and a strong belief in divine power. The Nephilim, with their hybrid nature and potential for power, could be seen as a threat to that established order.
Exactly. And that fear of disruption often manifests in the idea of the Nephilim as harbingers of chaos or even instruments of divine punishment. For example, in some interpretations, their presence is linked to the wickedness that supposedly led to the Great Flood, as if their very existence tipped the scales towards destruction.
So they become almost like a scapegoat for humanity's sins, a tangible representation of the forces that lead to divine retribution. It's a powerful narrative device using these larger-than-life figures to explain events of such magnitude.
It certainly is, and that narrative power extends beyond religious interpretations. As we briefly touched on earlier, the Nephilim have also found their way into various forms of art literature and even popular culture.
You're right. I've definitely come across them in fantasy novels and video games.
Hmm.
They're often portrayed as powerful ancient beings,
Hmm.
sometimes benevolent, sometimes antagonistic, but always shrouded in an aura of mystery and otherworldliness.
Precisely. And that adaptability is part of what makes them such enduring figures. They can be molded to fit different genres and narratives, serving as a blank canvas for creators to explore themes of power, morality, and the clash between the human and the divine.
It's almost as if they become a universal archetype, representing a fascination with the extraordinary and the boundaries between the known and the unknown. And that fascination clearly hasn't faded over time. People are still debating the Nephilim, proposing new theories and exploring their potential connections to other ancient myths and legends. What do you think drives this ongoing interest?
I believe it's a combination of factors. There's the inherent human curiosity about our past, the desire to uncover the mysteries that surround our origins and the forces that have shaped our world. The Nephilim, with their connection to a time when the lines between the earthly and the supernatural were seemingly blurred, offer a glimpse into a realm beyond our everyday experience.
It's like we're drawn to these stories that hint at a world where the impossible might been possible, where beings of immense power walked among us. It sparks our imaginations and challenges our understanding of what might have been.
Exactly. And beyond that historical curiosity, there's also the element of the forbidden, the taboo. The idea of angels interacting with humans potentially defying divine law or upsetting the cosmic balance adds a layer of intrigue and transgression to the story.
It's like the story of Pandora's box or the myth of Icarus flying too close to the sun. There's a cautionary element suggesting that there are limits to what humans should seek to know or control.
That's a great point. The Nephilim narrative often touches upon themes of rebellion, the consequences of overreaching, and the dangers of seeking knowledge or power that might be beyond our grasp. And these themes, of course, resonate across cultures and time periods, reminding us of the potential consequences of disrupting the established order, whether that order is defined by divine law or societal norms.
So they serve as both a source of fascination and a cautionary reminder. On the one hand, they represent the allure of the unknown, the possibility of transcending our limitations. On the other hand, they embody the potential for chaos and destruction that can arise when those limitations are ignored.
Precisely. The Nephilim story, in its various interpretations, offers a rich tapestry of themes and ideas that continue to resonate with us today. It's a testament to the enduring power of ancient narratives to spark our imaginations and challenge our understanding of the world.
You know, as we've been delving into this, I've been struck by how the concept of the Nephilim as powerful beings born from a union between the divine and the human seems to echo in other mythologies and folklore. It's as if this idea of divine human offspring and their impact on the world is a recurring motif across cultures.
You're absolutely right. Think about the demigods of Greek mythology, the heroes of various ancient epics, or even figures like Gilgamesh from Mesopotamian literature. These stories, though, originating from different cultures and time periods, share a common thread, a fascination with the idea of transcending our limitations, of connecting with something greater than ourselves.
It makes you wonder if there's something deeply ingrained in human nature that draws us to these stories, a longing for a connection to the divine event, a desire to understand our place in the grand scheme of things.
That's a profound insight. Perhaps these narratives in their diverse forms reflect a universal human yearning for meaning and purpose, a recognition of the potential for both greatness and destruction that resides within us, and a constant striving to understand the forces that shape our destinies.
And the Nephilim, with their ambiguous origins and their legacy of power and disruption, serve as a particularly potent symbol of that exploration. They embody both our fears and our aspirations, reminding us of the delicate balance between our potential for good and evil.
Their story continues to resonate because it speaks to something fundamental about the human condition, our ongoing struggle to define ourselves in relation to the world around us, and our eternal quest to unravel the mysteries of our existence.
Welcome back to our deep dive into the enigmatic world of the Nephilim. It's been quite a journey, exploring their origins, their various interpretations, and their enduring impact on human culture.
It really has. We've gone from those cryptic biblical verses to those elaborate accounts in extra biblical texts. And along the way, we've encountered this fascinating blend of history, mythology, and even human psychology.
Yeah, and one thing that's become clear to me is that the Nephilim story isn't just about these mysterious beings themselves.
Right.
It's about how their story has been used and interpreted throughout history to reflect like the beliefs, anxieties, and aspirations of different cultures and time periods.
Precisely. The Nephilim serve as this lens through which we can examine different worldviews, moral frameworks, and even societal structures. Their ambiguous nature allows them to be adapted and reshaped to fit various narratives and purposes.
It's like they're a cultural chameleon, you know, taking on different colors and patterns depending on the environment they inhabit. But even with those variations, there are some recurring themes that seem to transcend time and culture.
Absolutely. One of the most prominent themes is this idea of forbidden knowledge, the notion that there are certain things that humans are not meant to know, secrets that could upset the natural order or lead to some, disastrous consequences.
Yeah, we touched on this earlier with the Book of Enoch, where the fallen angels supposedly taught humanity things they weren't supposed to learn. And it seems like this theme resonates with stories from other cultures as well.
You're right. Think about the story of Adam and Eve partaking of the forbidden fruit in the Garden of Eden, or the myth of Prometheus stealing fire from the gods and giving it to humanity. These narratives all grapple with the idea that knowledge can be both a blessing and a curse, a source of power and a potential catalyst for destruction.
Yeah, it's a reminder that progress and enlightenment often come with risks and responsibilities. And the Nephilim, with their hybrid nature and their association with forbidden knowledge, embody the potential consequences of crossing those boundaries.
Exactly. They represent the allure of the unknown, but also the potential for chaos and disruption that can arise when we overreach or transgress limits that are meant to protect us.
It's fascinating how this theme of forbidden knowledge connects to another recurring idea we've encountered, the Nephilim as symbols of transgression and rebellion. Their very existence in some interpretations is seen as a violation of divine law or a disruption of the cosmic order.
That's a key insight. The Nephilim, particularly in their portrayal as offspring of fallen angels and humans, challenge established hierarchies and blur the lines between different realms of existence. And this blurring of boundaries can be both fascinating and terrifying depending on one's perspective.
Yeah, it's like they represent the ultimate taboo, a mixing of the sacred and the profane that some interpretations view as inherently dangerous or corrupting.
And that sense of transgression often leads to the idea of the Nephilim as scapegoats or catalysts for punishment. Their presence is seen as a sign of humanity's wickedness or a justification for divine retribution.
We see this in the connection between the Nephilim and the Great Flood in some interpretations. It's as if their very existence tipped the scales towards destruction, making divine intervention necessary to cleanse the world.
It's a powerful narrative device, using these larger-than-life figures to explain events of immense magnitude and to grapple with the age-old question of why suffering and evil exist in the world.
Yeah, it's a reminder that even in ancient times, people were searching for ways to make sense of the complexities of human existence, the interplay of good and evil, and the forces that shape our destinies. And the Nephilim story, with its ambiguity and its capacity for multiple interpretations, provided a framework for exploring those questions.
Precisely. But while the Nephilim are often portrayed in kind of a negative light associated with chaos, transgression, and punishment, there's also a sense of wonder and awe that surrounds them. They represent a connection to a time when the world was seemingly more magical, more mysterious, and more unpredictable.
You're right. There's a certain grandeur to their story, a recognition of their extraordinary nature and their connection to the divine. It's as if they embody the allure of the unknown, the possibility of something beyond our everyday experience.
And that's part of what makes their story so enduring. The Nephilim, despite their often negative portrayal, also tap into a deep-seated human desire to connect with something greater than ourselves, to explore the boundaries of what's possible, and to grapple with the mysteries that lie beyond our comprehension.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, what can we say about the Nephilim? Who were they and what do they continue to represent for us today?
Well, I think the answer is both simple and complex. On a basic level, the Nephilim are figures mentioned in ancient texts, often described as powerful beings born from a union between divine beings and humans. But their story goes far beyond those simple descriptions. Over time, they've become symbols of transgression, rebellion, the dangers of forbidden knowledge, and the potential for both greatness and destruction that exists within humanity.
They're a reminder that the lines between good and evil, the sacred and the profane, are often blurred. and that our quest for knowledge and power can have both positive and negative consequences.
Exactly. And ultimately, I think the enduring fascination with the Nephilim speaks to our innate human curiosity, our desire to understand our place in the universe, and our constant striving to make sense of the complexities of existence.
It's been an incredible journey exploring the world of the Nephilim. We've uncovered some fascinating insights into ancient beliefs, human psychology, and the enduring power of storytelling. And I hope this deep dive has sparked your curiosity to learn even more about these enigmatic figures and the mysteries they represent.
I agree. The world of ancient texts and mythologies is full of intriguing stories waiting to be explored, and the Nephilim, with their blend of mystery and human relevance, are a perfect example of how those stories can continue to captivate and challenge us even today.